The dam is set to break, my friends, from the Daily Mail. Names of every passenger to have flown on Jeffrey Epstein's aircraft to be revealed, sparking panic among the pedo's wealthy friends. Well, we are soon going to learn many names of people who flew on a plane for which they probably regret doing. And I think we got to point something out. Innocent until proven guilty, okay? Just because someone flew on his plane doesn't mean they knew exactly what he was doing, but I think it's worth bringing them in for questioning, and maybe not even that much, like interviewing them. What did you know? What did you do? Why did you do it? I'm sure there are a lot of people who didn't realize what they're getting into. You know, Donald Trump is in photos with Epstein. Donald Trump has had him at resorts, and I truly believe Trump just didn't really know or care. Another rich guy. And I've heard stories like that. Like, what do you do when you meet a rich person? They're like, ooh, this rich guy is worth like $500 million. He's got a private jet and, he wants to go party in this, this place. You're like, hey, sounds good. And then before you know it, you're on this horrifying place. What do you do about it? Look, I'll tell you what, man. I've heard stories from people how they've been invited onto private jets and private islands and they don't think twice. They're like, woohoo, and then they go and do it. And boy, did some people probably make a mistake with this guy. I'll tell you what, though. I bet there's going to be a lot of people who are guilty as well. But we got to make sure we're thorough and rigorous in our investigation to figure out who these people are, what they were doing, why they were doing it, and make sure, innocent people don't get convicted of crimes they didn't commit. And the guilty parties reveal everything they know about all of them. And then we arrest and round all of them up and put them in a teeny tiny box forever. You know what I mean? I mean, some people call for the death penalty for these people. Depends on the severity of their crimes, for sure. The Daily Mail reports the Attorney General in the U.S. Virgin Islands, where the billionaire had a home and is said to have carried out many of his horrific crimes, has demanded to see the logs which document the passengers on his aircraft. The logs on his 4 helicopters and 3 planes span from 1998 until his suicide in prison last year. Attorney General Denise George has filed a lawsuit against his estate alleging 22 accounts, including human trafficking, aggravated rape, child abuse, neglect, forced labor, and prostitution. Ms. George is also requesting to see any complaints or reports of potentially suspicious conduct, as well as personal notes made by the pilots. The subpoena demands the names and details of anyone who worked for the pilots, interacted with Epstein, and passengers who traveled with him. Pilot David Rogers had previously revealed logs from 2009, which showed Prince Andrew, Bill Clinton, Kevin Spacey, and Naomi Campbell were among those who flew on his jet. It is not suggested they were aware of any wrongdoings by Epstein. A source said, the records that have been subpoenaed will make the ones Rogers provided look like a post-it note. There is a panic among many of the rich and famous. Lawyers for the victim said the logs released in 2009 did not include the flights of chief pilot Larry Visocki, who had flown Epstein for more than 25 years. It comes as a celebrity chef has been quizzed by detectives 20 years after he worked for Epstein, prompting renewed calls for Prince Andrew to speak to the FBI. Andrew Perry Lang, 51, opened the Barbacoa restaurant with Jamie Oliver in London in 2010 and worked for Jeffrey Epstein between 1999 and 2003. He is now fully cooperating with the FBI investigation into allegations of abuse by depraved billionaire Epstein, reported the Daily Mirror. Attorney Eric Fidali, representing the victims, heaped pressure on Prince Andrew, who has been accused of stonewalling detectives. Now, I'm going to highlight another article real quick. And I want to make sure I preface this by saying I am not implying a grand conspiracy. In fact, I'm going to highlight this to kind of push back on the conspiracy claims. But I caught something interesting. Bill Clinton was on the island, or I'm sorry. Well, that was according to a witness statement. But Bill Clinton flew on the plane. And you had many other high-profile celebrities and Democrat donors who have been connected to, Epstein and other individuals as such. So when I saw this story, I also saw this and I thought it was interesting. From Bloomberg, Trump says he could close Biden's money lead in 1 day on phone. It turns out Joe Biden has more money than Donald Trump, they say. Biden's campaign and the Democratic Party have completely reversed the financial advantage of the Republican Party held earlier in the year. Reporting Sunday, they had $466 million on hand, and Trump had $325 million. Interesting. Well, you can't individually make $1 million donation. There's a cap of $2,800. And so rich people can't necessarily fund either of these campaigns. But there's a point I want to make to kind of push back on some of the conspiracy theories that have emerged around, like Epstein. We know Epstein was sick for the most part. I mean, he is not going to stand trial because he's dead. That justice was taken away from us and all his victims. But we do have his confidant, Maxwell. And people believe that she's singing like a canary. Is that the phrase? I don't know. She's singing to the FBI and telling them everything. But I sort of thought something. If you were one of these people that was in on the club with someone like Epstein, then you certainly don't want anyone finding out you're in those logs, and you'd probably donate to the party that is more likely to be connected in some capacity. I'll put it this way. I have no reason to believe that a vote for Joe Biden will somehow stop the investigation into Epstein, but I do think it's fair to say that this was going on under the nose of Democrats for a long time. In fact, Bill Clinton was like friends with the guy, I guess. So there's probably, I think it's fair to say there's more connection between Democrats and Epstein than there is Trump and Epstein. I do not believe there's a grand conspiracy with Satanists or any of this weird cabal stuff. What I think it is that powerful people turned a blind eye and allowed a depraved lunatic to do his thing. And he apparently had been arrested before, and they didn't stop him then. And we had witness statements, so we knew he's been doing this. Donald Trump has Bill Barr. Bill Barr is seemingly going after Maxwell. And so I'm sure there's going to be a lot of rich people. It's not so much about they did anything wrong or were involved in a conspiracy. I think many of them probably weren't. They just don't want their names released and want favorable parties to protect them. If someone like Bill Clinton was named in these logs, what do you think is going to come out with Bill Clinton in the next set of logs? In which case, they're probably going to ask for favors within their own party. Again, I don't think there's any grand conspiracy. I think it just so happens that Epstein was doing his conspiracy. That's what we know this with Maxwell and the abuse allegations, not a political grand cabalist thing, just a depraved lunatic who had power and was able to do it. And he had friends in the Democratic Party. He probably had friends in the Republican Party as well, but it's certainly not Donald Trump because Trump is the outsider. Now cue all the people claiming it's a conspiracy. I'm just pointing out the dude was tied to establishment UK politics and Democrat politics. The story goes on to say, Mr. Fadali said, "We certainly hope that this may inspire other witnesses to come forward and help shed some light on Epstein's dark scheme. American Mr. Perry Lang catered for the Duke of York 60 and flew with him in a private jet on 2 occasions, once in February 1999 and in May 2000. Sources told the newspaper, Perry Lang holds information on what took place. They will get as much detail as possible that will shape any interview they may one day have with the Duke. Mr. Perry Lang, who has been described as a decent man by victims, came forward after Virginia Giuffre, 37, wrote to ask him to be the hero. His lawyer, Lawrence Lusberg, confirmed the chef was helping the FBI. Mr. Perry Lang himself added, "We have absolutely always been available to the attorneys representing the victims." He previously denied being aware of any depraved behavior during his 4-year term as Epstein's chef. Epstein, 66, killed himself while awaiting trial in a cell for underage trafficking last year. I'm going to stop right there and say, I don't think anybody believes that. Like even Trump and Bill Barr mentioned, like, we don't know what happened. I wonder how it really happened. I will also add, major failure on the part of Bill Barr. Yeah. I don't think, the left was arguing that Bill Barr was in on it. No, I don't think that's the case. But I think Bill Barr let his guard down and they did not realize what they had. And now Epstein is gone. And there have been some people who have claimed that Epstein could not have possibly killed himself. Notably, this famous, I don't know, a forensic analysis. I don't know the guy's actual title, but autopsy guy. I'll call it that because I'm not a medical expert, so I'm not going to pretend to be the expert. But a guy who was known for his forensic analysis said, based on what he saw, Epstein could not have done this to himself. So then you get Trump and Barr saying, we don't know what happened. Trump said he wishes that Maxwell woman well. And they're like, how dare you? Why would you say this? And he's like, because her boyfriend just died. I wish her well. I get that. He wants her to live. He also doesn't want to appear like he's biased against her. And then they could try and claim that the government had, was determining guilt before anything was proven. I think it's fair to say this Maxwell lady's probably squealing like a pig. That's a better one. Squealing like a pig, telling everything. They're going to say the accuser spoke out in a documentary series, Surviving Jeffrey Epstein, claiming she met the royal in London, describing him as an abuser and not the prince from the fairy tale stories you read. Miss Giuffre, who says she was trafficked by Epstein, alleges the Duke had sex with her on 3 occasions, including when she was 17, still a minor under U.S. law. Andrew has categorically denied he has had any form of sexual contact with Giuffre. Maxwell is awaiting trial in the U.S. after being charged with procuring teenage girls for Epstein. So this is a rough story, man. YouTube's probably going to knock this one down, but I got to bring it up. We got to talk about it. This list is going to drop. Every passenger who has flown on his aircraft to be revealed. So there's going to be panic among wealthy people, and they're going to be begging for favors from anyone they can get. In my personal opinion, Trump would not be willing to grant them. Joe Biden, maybe. I mean, creepy Uncle Joe, I just think so. But I think many of these people take this conspiracy stuff way too far. Okay, we know about Epstein. But think about it. Really, really powerful guy doing whatever he wants. It's not a satanic cabal cult of weird people drinking blood or anything like that. That's ridiculous. We know that criminals exist. We know that people like Epstein exist. We've seen the allegations. We've seen the testimony. Unfortunately, he won't stand trial, but we'll see what happens with Maxwell. The story may end up being very different than any of you realize, so don't jump the gun. We'll see whose names pop up. This should be interesting nonetheless, but I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up in a few minutes. Stick around, and I will see you all shortly.